Hi, Irene Fehr here, sex coach for committed couples. Today, I want to talk to you about a case of the missing libido. Oh no, where did my sexual desire go? I work with committed couples in relationships, whether they're established couples or just entering a marriage or a committed partnership. And what I see is this classic scenario. Sex is amazing in the beginning. They can't keep their hands off each other. There is sparks flying. And then when they commit to each other, the sexual passion wanes. One or both partners lose their libido, or just that passion begins to disappear. So I want to unpack this a little bit to help you understand what happens in a committed relationship, and then to pinpoint the number one success factor that helps sexual relationships not only be sustainable throughout the decades, but actually thrive and grow and get better. Let's start with the beginning of the relationship. What happens when you meet someone is that, and also like them and want to be with them, is that we experience this cocktail of hormones, feel-good hormones in our system that makes us high. They make us see the world with rosy glasses. They make us open and available to our partners. And that creates this place where we have the sparks, we experience the sparks. And in that phase of a relationship in the beginning, you have both partners desiring each other. And there is this kind of dynamic that gets created where we desire our partners because they desire us. They are so hot to us because they want us, and vice versa. So sexual desire in the beginning of the relationship is rampant. You don't have to create it. It's there because of this cocktail of hormones, the newness, and this dynamic that our desire is reciprocated and it feels really hot and attractive. What happens when a relationship gets established and things slow down, the newness goes away, the hormones come down, thankfully, because we cannot be in that high state for long periods of time. So when all of that subsides, something usually shifts in around sexual desire in a relationship. It starts to wane. Again, the hormones subside, everything kind of calms down, and couples will find themselves with lack of passion, with lack of desire to have sex constantly, to have it regularly, to really get ramped up for it. And what I see couples do is they blame themselves in this space. They blame their compatibility, they blame their love, or they blame themselves thinking that they're somehow broken for having had this amazing period in the beginning and not being able to sustain it. But here's the thing. Here's how sexual desire switches in a long-term relationship. Whereas before, we desire our partners because they desire us. In a long-term relationship, actually one of our top responsibilities is to own our own desire. For us to be responsible for wanting our partners, whether or not they want us, and for cultivating our own desire. It doesn't work in a long-term relationship to constantly be waiting for your partner to want you. That's not where the heat and the eroticism comes from in a long-term relationship. It comes from taking responsibility for your own desire, for cultivating it, for owning it, for asking for what you want, for taking a risk in the relationship to be really vulnerable and to name what's really true for you. It could be a desire, it could be a boundary, or it could be a variety of things. It could be a need. But it's about that risk to own what's true for you and to own your desire, independent of your partner. That risk is the element that creates the eroticism and the excitement. It takes place of the newness and of this cocktail of hormones that we get in the beginning of the relationship. This risk, the ability to take risks, takes place of that to create eroticism and excitement in a long-term relationship. And owning and cultivating your desire is a lot of responsibility. You have to be you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be open and available emotionally to your partner. You have to be willing to risk judgment or rejection. And you have to be willing to risk exposure or love when you don't know if you will be met or loved back. That is something that we naturally have in the beginning of the relationship, that we're willing to take risks for, that often goes away once the relationship gets established, because naturally there's a fear of losing our partners, of losing what we've created, and then also losing the dream that we're creating for the future. But the thing is that eroticism is messy. It's dark. It's not warm and fuzzy the way love is. And to be able to maintain a sense of eroticism and also a sense your sex drive and the sense of passion in a long-term relationship, it has to come from risk-taking. Eroticism truly requires courage. And we can only become closer with another person when we take the risk of allowing them to see us, allowing them to really see what it takes for us to say what we want and what is really true for us. And again, that is a level of responsibility that we have to step up to. We have to own, and we have to set ourselves up for success from the start. This is what creates a sustainable relationship, sexual relationship over the decades. And this is what brings newness and excitement and passion into the relationship, the ability to own your own desire. Not just be desired, but to own your own desire. Now, this is especially hard for women because not only have women been culturally indoctrinated to be desirable for men and to be desired, but we also have a hormonal mix that predisposes us for that as well, to be desired by our partners so that we become pregnant and have babies. So there's a biological predisposition and there's a cultural conditioning that goes on top of it that has created this situation where for women it's truly challenging to desire equally as much as wanting to be desired and letting ourselves be desirable. But here's the thing, this is where it unravels in a long-term relationship, is while our biological selves are wanting this result, which is being desirable so that we can become pregnant and have babies, there's a higher part of ourselves that also wants to desire, to be autonomous, to have sovereignty, to have choice over whom we desire, and to have choice over our desire. And it becomes an icky situation where women engage in relationships where we allow ourselves to be desirable, but we don't do the desiring. And thus, we actually don't honor this part of ourselves, this higher part of ourselves, this more developed part of ourselves than the biological selves that wants to be able to honor our selfhood, to not just be an object for someone else's desire, but to be a subject, also doing the desiring. And when we don't engage in our own desiring, and that's true whether we're talking about a man or a woman, it feels awful. It feels like we're giving ourselves away. It erodes our self-esteem, and it creates a vicious cycle of either withdrawing from the relationship altogether because sex without that sexual desire feels terrible, or it can include blaming a partner for creating that situation. And this is where many couples disconnect and get caught in a vicious cycle in a long-term relationship. So what I want to leave you today with is this understanding that sexual desire shifts in a long-term relationship. It's not driven by hormones and it's not driven by newness, but it's driven by the courage to be vulnerable and to own your desire, to ask for your desire, to actually, well, first know your desire, know what your body is asking you to do, what you're wanting, and then sharing that with your partner. And lastly, standing up for your own desire, meaning when there are situations where you might have a choice of doing something against what is right for you, to say that that is not okay for you and to not engage in something like that, as well as to seek out opportunities and contexts where that can be created. And that this key of being able to take this risk on behalf of your own desire, the responsibility for owning it and risking vulnerably to share it with your partner, that is the key to sustaining a passionate sex life throughout the decades. I'd love to hear how this resonates for you, what aspects of this you might see in your relationship. So please leave your comments, and you can see more and learn about more of my approach on my website at irenefehr.com. Thanks for watching.